What is up, everybody? This is Recap Rewind. I'm J-Lag.
And I'm NB.
And this episode is recapping and reviewing Game of Thrones Season 8, Episode 3. And it's called The Long Night.
And don't forget, guys, stick around for the ending because we are going to go through our recap roundups, our best moments, our MVPs, our LVPs. So stick around for that. And don't forget to watch our reaction video to next week's promo on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, and as always, to our continuing listeners and our brand new ones, thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Let's get into the episode.
Ooh, let's get in it. 80 minutes. 80 minutes, and what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, for one, longest episode of Game of Thrones ever.
Yeah.
It was amazing. I thought it was fantastic. I know that a lot of commenters, a lot of people are talking about it already, and they're saying like it was so dark and like da 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 da. I'm like, it was nighttime, guys. Like, there's nothing that you can do about the darkness.
Yeah.
But it was a really action-packed episode. I think the cinematography was phenomenal. I was so impressed by the way they put it all together. I loved it. I thought it was great. What did you think?
No, I definitely enjoyed it. I think it was really entertaining. Appreciate all the production that went behind it because I can imagine how I think it took them like 55 days to film this episode.
Yeah.
So like that's pretty
that's
effing
insane.
crazy, and I'm sure they broke a bunch of records. There are some spots where I feel like the editing was a little shoddy and like it was really dark. Like I know they should have. I know the fire helped a lot with that because it did brighten things up. But there were a lot of moments where I was like, I can't see what's happening. Like, what is going on? But I kind of just chalked it up to like, whatever. It's a fight sequence. Like, God knows what's happening. I'll find out like in the end who's dead and who's alive. But no, like the ending was completely satisfying for me. I was like living. I was like so happy.
Yeah. It was so chaotic, but it was so good.
It was really good.
Well, we're going to get into it, but we're going to like take it by like the major moments because it was mostly fighting and
that's
like back and forth fighting.
Do you feel like almost like 55 minutes of the episode, maybe even longer, was basically kind of just fighting? Like it didn't really get to the nitty gritty of the episode till like the last maybe 15 minutes and that was it. And I was like,
for sure. They did it in like the last little bit. There was like very little dialogue obviously in this episode. There were some choices that were made that we didn't realize why they were being made, but I want to get into those pieces.
And it's interesting because I think David Benioff and the DB Weiss, like the writers, I think they only wrote this episode out of the whole season. So it's kind of funny that like they wrote the only episode that's like had like 4 lines in it basically.
Right. They're like, nailed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
so
let's get in it.
We're going to start off right like where it all begins with the fight. And the sequence that they start off with is like the first shot you see is Sam like freaking out and he gets like a little piece of dragon glass and they're like, move, bitch. And then it like kind of moves to different characters in the story, the people that we know. Tyrion, and he's about to go downstairs into the crypt, and then it shows like kind of everybody getting ready and like battling into their stations.
And it kind of just puts you all there. Like you are really in it right from the get-go of the episode. Like they don't really waste any time to jump into it. They're already kind of like on the outside of Winterfell, and they're already lined up and ready to like basically just. They were sort of waiting, I guess, to see if the White Walkers were going to come to them.
Because it's so fucking dark.
It's
you
dark,
couldn't
guys.
even see
like, it was the wind howling. It's the middle of the night. Like, it's pitch black. I'm like, guys, did you guys not think to have lanterns? Like, what's going on here? Like,
one lantern.
Yeah. Like, what the F?
The one thing that I didn't, and this is just asking for too much, obviously, at this point, and they're like, it obviously didn't happen. And I guess it's just because there's no wildfire left, but I was like, this is a perfect moment for a little bit of green wildfire. Like, where were those storage units?
I think you're right. I think that whole, when she blew up the sept, I think that was like the end of the wildfire. Like that was their sign of being like, don't depend on this. Like this is now done. This supply is gone.
Right.
You know, and they have 2 dragons,
but it would have been
dude.
helpful.
Like 2 dragons should have been like the wildfire, but those dragons were effing tired because like they did not compete last night at all. They needed some Gatorade and they needed some electrolytes because they were not a part of that fight.
They were ready to go to bed. Yeah.
So I think, and one of my favorite scenes, this happens right at the beginning. They're all waiting, and so like Jorah's waiting, and they're all kind of like, what the heck's going on? Like, are they gonna approach? And then this bitch, Melisandre, starts like
she just rolls
clanking on her
in.
horse. She's like, "Hey guys," I'm like, "What? Right now?
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna come back right now."
Here's the thing, and I will say this about Melisandre, like, big ups to her. She really came through this episode, obviously. However, every fucking thing she did was like in slow fucking motion. It wasn't like her riding up on this horse like, come on guys, let's get ready, let's go. It was like
calm.
Hello, everyone. I was like, girl, there's a fucking war happening. Like, get it together.
Yeah.
And go.
I obviously wanted her to come back. I felt like she needed to be here she had to do some like epic thing, and she did. So just seeing her come back in the beginning, I'm like, OMG, she's gonna kill it. And the first thing she does, and they're all kind of like, oh, what's this like sketch queen like doing here? And then she's like, tell your men to like lift their swords. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, I was just, I was so excited for her to like redeem herself.
It was like watching,
you know?
Yeah. And it was like watching like a sports like game or something. I'm not a big sports person, obviously, because I just called things sports games, but like clearly, but like, it was like, the excitement of watching something start the way that it like started. Olympic. I was like,
she lit the Olympic torch.
Yeah, it was fucking insane. So she holds onto one of the Dothraki blades and she does her fire prayer, and every single one of the Dothraki blades go on fire as soon as she does the one. And it was just so beautiful to watch. I'm sure there was a lot of CGI, but I'm sure a lot of it was done.
Why didn't she do the other
like
people's?
Real. Like, what do you mean?
Because she only did the Dothraki. She like, I'm like, you're gonna do the next crew or what, girl? And then she did it. And I'm like, oh, okay.
She like walks by Grey Room and she's like, bye.
Yeah, she's like, nailed it. She's like, let me go get some water now. Bye. I'm like, no, wait. There's like still half the army to light up. Like, what are you doing?
Like, do everybody.
Yeah.
But it was such a beautiful scene to watch, but also very tragic because as soon as like the Dothraki like go into the distance, everybody's like, yes, so get lit. This is the thing,
and I think this whole episode has this. There's a lot of waves where you feel like our side is gonna win. You're like sick. Like, it's basically like watching a Toronto Maple Leafs game where you're like, okay, they nailed it. Like, they're winning 6-1, you know, and like they're killing it, and then in like 10 seconds like Boston wins and like everything's over. It's basically like that. So what happens is like, she lights everyone's torches, and you're like sick, like they're gonna win, like, oh my God, like they have fire fucking torches, and so they all like they like chant and like they like run out, and you're like, yes, like kill them. And then you just see this wide shot, and literally like the light just starts disappearing.
Slowly disappears.
Jorah's face was like, oh my God. And everyone just starts realizing like they're all fucking dying. And then all the lights just go out. And it's like quiet. Completely out. And it's just quiet. Yeah. You don't hear anything.
And then all you see is like one lone like horse come back.
He's like, bye.
It's like, bye. It's like, fuck
like,
this.
I'm out of here, bitches.
And like maybe like 3 Dothraki like survived the entire fight.
It was terrifying.
I was like, that's not good. Yeah. Like, what are we going against? What are we going up against right now? So, and meanwhile, Dany and Jon are sitting on a rock at the top of everything. Christ. Yeah. And they're just watching this whole thing go down. Yeah. And Dany is like having an anxiety attack. She's like, I can't do this right now. I need to go down and help my friends. And Jon, I think his plan was that they would wait for the Night King. Like, they were going to be up there, wait for the Night King to show up with his dragon, and then they were going to go off and fight him. But instead, and this is when everything goes wacky, Dany's like, fuck it, I need to go there and do this. So she gets off the cliff, flies down there, and starts burning shit up because these White Walkers did not like wait a minute. Like, they were coming in, they were like waves. It was like a gigantic wave of people climbing on top of the rest of the army. I was like, that's a lot of fucking dead people. Like, they're fucked. Like, they were fucked. So So she tries to like burn a flame through, and obviously John joins her because he's like, okay, fine, I guess like my girl's going, so I'm gonna go. And the one thing that I will say about John and Danny right now, like just off the top, is they don't have a conversation. Like there ain't no time for that conversation about you being my auntie and like I'm your nephew.
By the way, he totally had time to say something. Like there was so much effing silence. He could have been like, by the way, like I don't want the throne. Like you can have it, girl. Don't worry about it. Like no, he doesn't say anything. She's just like cheese at him, and then he keeps like just staring down at her. I'm like, Kate, you need to make this better.
They were basically eye rolling the entire time against each other. Like she was like, oh, get out of my face, get out of my way, like the entire time. So she goes down, but while that's happening, there's this gigantic storm that hits them all.
Yeah. So
and the storm is fucking crazy.
I know.
Yeah.
And
so like
everything's happening really quickly too, guys. Like they're cutting from like the sky, the aerial shots of the dragons, and then back to like Winterfell. Like you don't know what's happening, and I'm like, oh shit! Like the Night King is literally creating this huge storm, and Danny and John are sort of getting lost in the sky. Right. And they can't come back to Winterfell. But I was just like, guys, you're so stupid right now. Like, what a waste of 2 dragons.
I know. And like, the poor dragons, they couldn't even blow fire because they're like, I'm so fucking lost and my riders are stupid. So they didn't do anything to help that situation at all.
It was a little like, eh.
Yeah, I was hoping that at least the dragons would be like, bah, like just like throw fire down and like hope for the best, you know? But they weren't doing that because they were just trying to fly.
Like, I just want to stress, stress right here how effing important Melisandre was. And to everyone who's like doubting it, like you guys are stupid. This woman, if it wasn't for her, they would have been done right there. Like 100%. Right then and there, without her lighting the perimeter of Winterfell. Like they would, first of all, the dragons would have been like lost AF. Like God knows where they would have ended up.
Yeah.
They would have like been in like King's Landing probably. And like, she saved that in that moment. She saved them and she brought them back up to where they needed a break almost. Because I'm like, shit's happening too fast. They need to like gather themselves. And in that moment, she sort of lights like a perimeter around Winterfell, which helps Danny see. She's like, oh shit, like, okay, it's there. I have to go that way down.
And that moment was amazing because, I think they were waiting for her. Like, it was Danny's cue to like go and like light up the trenches. But she was obviously caught in the storm. She couldn't see shit. It was like Rudolph. And she... like they're like, Melisandre, like go out there and like give us a hand. So once again, like I said, she like literally walks out there so fucking slow. She's like, and like, and everyone's dying. The Unsullied are like trying to cover her and block her.
Davos was giving the red woman like the crustiest. So he's like, what you going to do now? I'm gonna kill you right now. She's like, you can kill me after. Don't worry, I'm gonna die. Like he kept eyeing her down.
Yeah. So finally she goes out and it was a really, really cool scene. Obviously it played out exactly how I was expecting it to go, but it was really well shot. Like she's hearing all these undead.
Did you know she was going to do that when she started walking?
Well, yeah. As soon as they were like, they need to light the trenches and she was going to do it, I was like, okay, she's going to obviously light it up and it's going to be just in time.
I thought she was going to bring back the dead. I'm like, yes. And then she didn't do that because like she can do that too. Like technically the Lord of Light can do that. But then she has that ability. Oh, I guess like fire is better right now.
Yeah. So she goes there, she lights it up finally at the very perfect moment, like where like an undead white is lunging at her.
Yeah.
And so the whole thing lights up and they're like, yes, we got that part of the plan done. And meanwhile, I think John at that moment, he gets back to the tree. Like, so he gets back to Bran and he waits there because that's what the plan was. He was going to wait at the Godswood tree for the Night King.
Why did it take the Night King so long to get there, though?
I mean, it's like what you were saying. The problem with this and the way that they like set up the whole war, the battle, is I think a lot of these things are happening simultaneously and we're only able to see them in the moments that they show us. Like they can't be like, oh, he was already at the Godswood tree this whole time. Like we need to see them in that like way. So maybe it did take him like 10 minutes to get there, but really we were watching all these other things happen first. Like we had to watch them fighting off the White Walkers first, the big horde, and then the people dying, and then it goes back to those moments. So so finally the Night King shows up, and in that moment I think Dany finally finds her way out of the storm, and the Night King is like ready to like fight, but I guess we can talk about that in a second because I want to talk about Arya kicking some fucking ass in the castle.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to wrap her whole story kind of into a really quick moment. So
before the ending.
Before the ending,
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
So Arya's in the castle, and like everybody else, everybody's fighting, but I'm focusing on Arya because she's the one, obviously.
Yeah, and they did give her a really big solo sequence too, and that part made me really nervous because I was like, oh, why are we focusing only on her? Like, this is my stomach's hurting. Like, is she gonna die? Oh my god, what's happening?
She's gonna die, yeah. So she's fighting. She's so fucking badass with her new weapon from Gendry, and she's kicking some ass. And I think at one point in time, she runs into the castle, and at this point, the whites are inside the castle. Like, they're now infiltrated the castle. They're in the middle main square. They're inside the castle specifically, and so she's trying to find her way through it. So she finds her way into the library, the Stark library, and this moment was like a horror movie.
Yeah,
it was so fucking crazy to watch. And I was like, my heart was pounding for her. And so she's like going through and she sees all these whites. And first I was like, what is she so concerned about? Like, does she hear just one? And then you realize that there's like 25, 30 of them in the same room. Yeah. And they're all just like looking for people. And so she's like walking through. She's like a cat. She doesn't get noticed, but she's also bleeding at this point because she got knocked out by one of the whites at one point. And so she hides under a table. There's blood dripping from her face, and they can hear the blood drip. So I think at one point
ridiculous,
they have
because there's a whole fucking battle going on upstairs.
I know.
You would not hear blood dripping. Like, I'm sorry.
It's true. And there's it's a creaky ass
it's like World War Z happening
castle.
Upstairs. Like, come on.
So they hear her, but then still, it's like also just like one of those suspenseful moments because she doesn't appear. Like she hides.
Yeah.
Like she finds her way out of under the table, and she turns a corner, and there's a white there, and I was so fucking shocked. But
scary.
Like, sure enough, she like kills it before it could even scream, and then she like lays it down quietly, and then she exits the room. When she exits the room, this bitch don't know how to close the door properly, and it's like she's like, almost Gadunch. And I was like,
because from the other door they came through, that's why the other door opens when she closed it quietly, but then the other door opens and they come flying out, and then they're like, what's going on out there? And like they start coming like towards like her door, and then it just became like a complete shit show.
Yeah, so she's running through the hallways. She's like getting her, like she's like literally like running away from death. And at that point in time, I think during the war, Beric and the Hound are on the outside, and he sees like the Hound is petrified. Like, he's obviously still scared of fire, so he can't he gets over things really quickly. He's like, fuck this, I can't be here right now. Like, we're gonna lose anyway. There's too many of them. And Beric's like, well, what about her? And Arya's literally like running for her life and like falling off a roof. Yeah. Like, she's gonna die. And like it was such a cute moment. He was like, girl, I'm coming. So he
like Beric didn't have to even Beric didn't even like stop his sentence. He's like, what about her? And then like Clegane was like already gone. He's like, I'm gonna save you, girl. I was like, oh, that is so cute.
It was so cute. So she ends up like they end up meeting up with her in the hallways, but it's like in the perfect moment. Like, literally a white is about to like eat her face open, and Beric like kicks him off, and then they start attacking all three of them while they're running down this hallway. And it's like you were saying, the production of this show and the way that they shot this, I'm sure it took so long because those corridors are fucking tiny, and they really made you feel claustrophobic in these like small Stark hallways. So they're running through, and of course Beric is going to be the sacrifice of this whole situation, which I expected. Did you expect that?
Yeah, I mean, I was scared for Arya. I really was. I'm not gonna lie. Like, my stomach was hurting. I was like, I don't know if she's gonna make it. Like, I knew that the Hound was probably gonna make it, just because I'm like, I feel like his story is gonna end with him fighting his brother, but then I'm like, of course Arya could still die, so I was scared of that,
right?
But then Beric like sacrificing himself, and he basically like kind of like shields them in the hallway, and then they start biting into him, and then like they run away, like Arya and Clegane
Yeah.
like run away, and then
he like holds him with his like body, and he's like in a Jesus pose. He's basically like holding his hands against the walls like Jesus on the cross, and it was like I feel like it's very symbolic to the fact that he came back to life so many times, and he's sacrificing himself.
And like it was crazy because I never thought of this, because then so they get into like the next room, and then they end up bringing him into the room, but like he dies like right away, like he can't like survive obviously. And then like Melisandre's like lurking there by the fire. She's like, hey,
she's literally been waiting that whole time, like in the back corner.
And she does say it. She's like, the Lord of Light brought him back all those times for this exact moment, to like save you,
for this
basically.
purpose,
and I was like,
to save you.
Oh my God, like I wanted to start fucking crying, because you just don't ever imagine that their two stories were gonna intersect here.
For sure.
For this reason, like I always knew his role was gonna be big at some point, because like why would he come back to life this many times? But for it to be for Arya, I was like, oh my God,
it was crazy.
It was just so
and
crazy.
At that point, you're still not really even clear as to why, like why she's still like why he died. So I was like, okay, like he died to save Arya, but like Arya still isn't like this special person.
Yeah.
So I was like, cool. And then Melisandre talks to Arya a little bit longer, and Arya's like, you said that we would meet again. And she's like, and here we are at the end of the world. And I was like, talk faster. So then she's like,
I loved it.
No, it was definitely important to hear like the beats and like to understand, because I thought that Arya was gonna go and kill this girl. She was like, I thought she was gonna like take some revenge on her.
She's like, I know you from somewhere, and I was like, where? And I couldn't remember where, so I had to actually go and like Google the scene where they actually do meet, when they're like on their like journey, whatever. And the Red Woman was like, I told you, like we're gonna meet again. And like I told you that you were gonna, like I have the quote, but like but I totally forgot about it.
Yeah, so she said brown eyes, blue eyes, green eyes.
Yeah.
And like you're going to kill a lot of people in your life. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so I don't remember
when she finally says blue eyes.
I didn't remember this quote at all. Like that she had said it from time.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Did you remember it?
And so I didn't remember it until she said it. I'm like, true. Like when they're on the horses and then they're in the middle. I definitely remember it as she recalled it. And I was like, true, that's a good point. But at that time, you think that the brown eyes, green eyes, blue eyes are just regular people. I thought the blue eyes was Cersei, you know? So when I thought like she was going to be closing these eyes forever, I was thinking humans. I wasn't thinking fucking undead people.
Well, when she said blue eyes, I was like, oh, okay, sick. Like she's going to kill a White Walker. Like that's what I thought. Like, okay, she's going to kill one of them, you know? Not the
But I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that back then. That was like 7 seasons ago.
Not
like
back
I
then.
don't remember.
No, like when she said it now, I was like, okay, she's gonna kill one of them. Cool. That's what I thought.
Right.
You know?
But I mean, like she's been killing like a bunch of them. So then, even in this moment, I was like, true. She's like killing the undead. Like they have the white eyes. So I was like, okay, like the prophecies come true. Like she's been killing the undead. They're there. But then she says something even more special, which is. She says the thing that her old dance teacher told her, like from way back season 1, which is what do you say to the god of dead? No, god of death?
Yeah, god of death, yeah.
And then they're both like, not today, like together at the same time.
Fucking chills.
And then in that moment, Arya's like, true. And then she just like runs off screen.
She just runs
off. Then I'm like, where are you going, girl? How are you gonna get like? What do you like? At that point, I was so excited for her to like get back in the game and do something, but I totally forgot about her because there's like 7 other moments that happened in the episode that like you totally forget about her. Because the question is like, how does she even get out of the room? Like, does she climb a window and like pop a window open and like jump out? Like, how does she even get out? Anyway, I guess we're never gonna know. But so she like leaves. But I'm going to cut back to the dragon fight in the sky because I thought that was fucking crazy. So back to the Night King. He finally arrives at the Godswood. And this is the moment that Dany and Jon finally decide to attack. So they're attacking and the storm is happening at the same time. And it seems like the Night King had a lot of he had the upper hand, right?
Yeah, so it definitely looked like the Night King had the upper hand, but also that shot that they had, like in the sky with like the moon and like the clouds were lit. I was like, oh my God, I want to see this. I wanted to see it full out, like a full out fight, but it felt like it kept,
like a wide shot.
Yeah, and it felt like it kept getting interrupted. So like, yeah, like the Night King comes in, he like almost tries to burn the like Dany's dragon. It just felt like Dany and Jon were not. They just weren't
synchronized.
They weren't synchronized. They weren't focused. Like the Night King just he just was gonna kill them. Like I'm like, there's no point.
Yeah,
like,
for
they're
sure.
gonna fucking die here.
I was like, this is and that's the thing. You think that 2 dragons versus 1, and the fact that she had Drogon, which is the biggest of all 3 of them, that would have made a difference, but it didn't make a difference. But he definitely evened out the playing field with the ice storm and the fact that there was a storm happening at the same time. So I get that, but like back to your point, I would have liked to see a few more wide shots because they really kept you in the action, and it got really like confusing to watch, and like it's such an epic moment. We're never gonna see
it again.
2 dragons like fighting against each other ever again. So it would have been cool at least to see like the blue fire and the yellow fire just like go and like kind of create something. I don't know. I would have liked to see a few more cinematic moments with the dragons fighting, just because we're never going to see that again.
I also felt like maybe it was just me, but because they were in the darkness too, I couldn't tell which dragon was which unless there was a close-up and I would see Dany on like the one dragon. It was just really hard to tell like who's hitting who, which one's biting which, like who's crying, who's winning, like and I don't know how they could have solved that, but like it was just really hard to tell what was happening. And you like you're saying, like it's an iconic moment. Like the dragons are fucking fighting their brother. Like this should be like a crazy moment. And I wasn't as excited as I wanted to be about it.
Yeah. And I didn't even know who won at the end of it all. Cause like you said, it was so confusing. I didn't know, like, did they beat Viserion? Like, did he like, cause at one point, like the big point of the fight is finally the Night King like falls off of
when
his
he
dragon.
fell, it was so funny.
He's like, bye everyone, I'll see you later, I'll see you on the floor, and they're already still stuck in the storm, so they don't know where the hell he went. And on top of that, they're still fighting Viserion, I guess, because like he's like still in the sky. I thought that's the thing. I thought that Viserion died, but he didn't die. So Rhaegal gets like really like brucked up by it, so he falls in some other area kind of close to Winterfell, and he like drops Jon, and that's kind of the last time we see Rhaegal for the rest of the episode. / like I thought he was fucking dead.
Me too.
Like,
the way he crash landed, I was like,
oh my god,
okay,
he's dead.
And I don't know,
but I don't think he is.
No,
but so he's leaving, and then, or he's like gone, and then Jon starts walking back toward Winterfell, and then he sees in the distance Dany like finally seeing the Night King on the ground, and she's like, Dracarys, and I was like, girl, it ain't gonna work. Like,
I'm like,
obvious, it's not gonna work. So he's basically smiling. The Night King's like, try it, bitch. Yeah. So she does it, and then of course, like through the flames, he like ices it out again, and he's like, I'm still here, bitch. Yeah. And so she gets freaked out because he like picks up his spear and he tries to chuck it at Drogon.
Like, where did his spear even come from, bitch? Like, he fell off the dragon. Yeah. Like, but I guess it was like spear?
Nearby him, like in the area, weird. Like nearby him. So he chucks it. He like barely misses him, which is like, oh my god, if he killed him too, I would have been like, this is dead. Bullshit. No. So she like flies away for a second, and then in that moment, Jon tries to like ambush him because the Night King is starting to walk toward Winterfell. He's like, okay, I'm here. I'm gonna go find Bran now. So he's walking toward Winterfell, and then he sees him. Like, he turns around, he sees Jon, and then in that moment, there's this epic moment where he looks over to him and he starts bringing everybody back to life. Like, everybody around him, everyone who's already died is now coming back to life. So there's the second wave of the undead, because I think it was almost toward the end where all of the whites were mostly dead. Like, they had kind of pushed them all off enough. Like, Jaime was out there, Brienne was on the top, and she was like, they were getting rid of a lot of them. But then as soon as that happened, everyone started coming back to life, and I was like, oh, this is not good right now.
Yeah, I think the way that was shot was really cool, because he sees him and he's like, bitch, I'm coming for you. Like, John's like going after it, and I'm like, you better fucking run. And the second the Night King sees that like John's coming, he like glitches out and he starts bringing everyone back to life. And then now it's just like this race of who's gonna get there first. And of course, the Night King is able to like resurrect a couple of the dead around him, where like it blocks John from getting to the Night King. But then, I
mean, it's not a couple. It's like literally every single one of them.
And then it became unrealistic again. John's in the middle of like fucking 40 dead whites. I'm like, there's no way you're getting out of this, bro. Like you're not even like,
you're dead.
You're not even on an incline. Like you're on like the same ground as they are, and there's 40 of them surrounding you. Like how the F would you survive that?
Yeah.
It's too much.
And I have a question about like that for you too. Like when it comes to the Night King, don't you think that a lot of what he did really came from this like cocky attitude of him just thinking that he can just defeat everybody? Because I feel like if he did this a little bit faster, / like killed off John right away, like killed off everybody right away, then like he would have survived everything. But he literally walked in, he was like, I got dead people, I'm good, like we're gonna just keep winning the entire time, like this is the prophecy, I'm gonna get in there.
He was like smiling the whole time too. He's like
right. Yeah, it was like, bro, if you really just like put your work together, then you would have won for sure.
Yeah.
So, so cutting back from that moment, because I think at that point, John gets out of that situation by Dani coming back around, like she wraps back around, she burns the whites around him, and then he's able to like get through. And then he like runs away, like he like leaves without her. He like goes toward Bran, and in that moment, while she's on the ground, she's like, "Go get it, boy."
She's like, "I love you," but like she's just taking her sweet ass motherfucking time. She's like, "Hey," she's like,
"Get off the ground.
I want to talk about something." And she's like, "I love you." I'm like, "Do you not see the motherfucking whites getting on your dragon, girl?"
There's whites everywhere. They're climbing on fucking Drogon, and it was like watching ants eating like a piece of meat. It was so gross and creepy. I was
terrified
to watch.
Like,
there were so many of them. So he can barely like fly off the ground. He's shaking them off like crazy, and he's like shaking them off so hard that he pushes her off the dragon. She falls on the floor, and then he flies away. He's like, "Fuck you, bitch! I'm out of here."
Yeah,
like,
he drops her. He fully drops her, and he's like, "Bye, I'm out."
He fully drops her.
I mean,
so she's now left vulnerable in this situation, and like we'll just cut there and then we'll move to like this next scene, because I want to talk about what happens in the crypt really quickly, because they don't really have a lot of big moments. So in the beginning of the fight, Sansa has a conversation with Tyrion, and they talk about their wedding, which was kind of cute, because I forget that they were like married at one point. And so he's like, "Hey, like, it would have been cute if we got together, but maybe it wouldn't have worked out." And then Sansa says something along the lines of like, "It wouldn't have worked out because of the Dragon Queen, like we would have had different alliances." And Missandei has this like sassy ass moment where she's like, "Yeah, without the Dragon Queen, you guys would be dead."
But she's right.
And then she like walks away. She's right, but like I was questioning why there was
why they had that moment.
Yeah, because it didn't resolve itself afterward. Like they were all together in the same shitty situation. So like, why did they have that conversation in that moment? I don't know.
Even the fact that Sansa called her the Dragon Queen, like you know her now, like you know her as Dany, or you know her as the queen.
Just call her Dany.
Call her Dany. Like, and I feel like just her calling her that is like she still feels like there's a separation between herself and her, and
for sure
that maybe she can't trust her or whatever it is. But also,
100%,
I think it's really important to remember that Sansa has no idea that Jon is a Targaryen. So, like, I feel like when that shit comes out, she's going to have to feel so differently about all of this. And she's going to have to look at Dany like almost like family. Like, it's like Jon's, like, freaking aunt. So, like, it's going to change that dynamic,
For sure. So then there's that moment. And then the dead come back to life, which was really fucking scary, inside the crypt. So when he raises the dead around Winterfell, he also raises the dead in the crypt. And this moment was so shocking to me, because I was like, are you fucking serious? They're gonna bring back the fucking dead in the fucking
like
crypt? Did you think that was gonna happen?
Yeah, so we were talking to some people at work last week, and I was like, imagine they bring back Ned Stark as like a fucking zombie, because like they're all in the crypts. Like Lyanna's in there, Ned's in there, I think Catelyn's in there. Like they're all in there technically.
Yeah.
So like if the dead come back, like are they gonna come back? And everyone was like,
right.
Oh my god.
And are they gonna come back to? Like, are they going to come back to fight, or are they going to come back to, like, help them?
No,
you know
like,
they'll
come back as the dead, as, like, an evil spirit.
Right.
But, like, that didn't happen. Like, they just, it was, like, regular, like, people, dead people, whatever.
It was, like, random Starks, yeah. So they're all coming back, and these are, like, helpless women and children. So all of them are literally dying in there. And I don't even know how everybody got away and hid.
Yeah, they don't show that part.
The crypt is so small. Like, I don't know how they were able to, like, hide from these guys for that long, but they were kind of on the side. So all of our characters, like the eunuch and Missandei, everybody was kind of just hid away.
That's something that I would have liked to see, because I didn't understand how logistically, like, it all worked. Like, if they all got attacked at the same time, because they're all sitting in the same room, like we saw them, they're all sitting in the same, like,
right.
4 effing walls. How the F did Varys, how did Tyrion, how did Sansa go and hide, and those people didn't hide? Like, I didn't understand that.
I don't know. Just bad luck, I guess. Like, someone had to die. So, yeah, everybody's getting killed. And there's a really sweet moment between Sansa and Tyrion where they feel like it's the end of everything. And it's towards the end of the episode. But they're hearing all the screams, and they're like, we're going to have to do something. And at one point in time, Sansa even pulls out a piece of dragon glass that Arya gives her from the beginning of the episode. And she was like, I don't even know how to use this shit. And Arya says her, like, classic line, stick it with a pointy end. But I was like, Sansa's not going to use that shit. She doesn't know how to use a fucking knife.
It would have been really cool to see her use it at least one time.
At least one time, yeah.
Because I just felt like that went nowhere, and I was kind of like, Sansa, like, what the frick?
Like, you didn't do anything. Yeah. And
Same with
Tyrion at one point, like, he was like, give me the knife. And he's like, he like goes out of the area where they're hiding, and he's like, what are you going to do, bro? Like, you're going to kill one white and then die? Like, it didn't make any sense. But I guess at the same time, he was like, I want to fight, but he couldn't fight. I don't know. So going back to upstairs, there is a moment that I want to call out, just because, like, for one, social media blew the fuck up over this moment. And also, I thought it was epic as fuck. So while the whites are trying to infiltrate the castle, they break down the main door with a giant. And so it's like a dead giant. He breaks the door down, and it's little Lyanna Mormont, like the tiny little baby girl.
Yeah.
And she's right up front with her army. And she sees this freaking guy, and she's like, what the fuck? And he just dashes her away. He's like, get the fuck out of my way. Yeah, like a tennis
ball. She's like, ah!
Yeah. She's like, bah! So she gets hit to the side. And as she, like, gets back up, she grabs a piece of dragon glass, and she charges at him. And, of course, he, like, grabs her right away. He's like, bitch. And he, like, looks at her because he's, like, squeezing her to death.
He's like, yummy, girl.
And he's just like... He's like, delicious. And as he's kind of putting her toward, like, his face, she grabs the knife, like, with all of her the strength that's left in her, and stabs it right in his eyeball. And then he, like, falls apart. He, like, dies right away. And as he dies, he, like, slams her to the ground, and she dies too.
Epic.
So they both die, but it was like one of the most epic deaths I can say, like, hands down, in the entire series.
It
like,
was cool.
It was
that,
so
like,
badass.
It was cool that, like, the littlest girl killed, like, the biggest, you know,
one of the biggest people. Yeah,
and that was a really cute pairing up for both of their deaths.
For sure. And apparently, like, Lyanna's Mormont wasn't supposed to have as many lines and parts as she did, but because of the actress and how good of an actress she was, bring that energy. And I'm pretty sure also, like, how social media definitely banded behind her. Because I remember when I watched her, I was like, this girl's a boss ass bitch.
Like, who is this
She's
girl?
so cool.
She's so cute.
And, like, for them to create this role for her, it was such a cool, like, moment to see her, like, come and go. Like, it was a really epic moment for her to have. The one thing I will say that kind of reminds me of this is, do you feel like we should have seen more of those moments in the episode with maybe some of our other heroes. Like,
and
I feel like Brienne and Jamie were literally fighting people off the entire time. Brienne was fucking screaming her head off like a fucking banshee the entire time. Like, you don't see her actually have any proper fights. She's just like everyone else fighting off the White Walkers. And I was like, that's kind of a waste to see like your heroes like do not much more than be a part of the rest of the crew, you know?
Yeah. I think, in my opinion, all of this is that I think I would have liked to see as individuals what their strengths were and how they fight in the war. Like, especially with Lyanna, like, considering that she's so small, I would have loved to see her like run up to the giant and like climb him almost, because like she's so tiny that she can do that, and like he can't even get to her because like she's so small, and that's how she sort of kills him, like kind of using her size to her advantage. And same with Arya. I kind of wanted it all to be like, because she knows Winterfell so much and she is a ninja, but she's also lived here her whole life. Like, I would have liked to see her use like the tunnels or like some crazy like secret like pathway in the castle to somehow get away or kill just kill. I didn't really see that, so I was like, okay, they're just kind of fighting and like they're doing amazing. They're just fighting, you know? So
yeah, they're just fighting. Like, there's so many people. Yeah. So the last half of this, or not even the last half, the last like 10 minutes of this season or this episode literally is in complete slow motion. Like, the music turns into Titanic music, and then everything is just in slow motion. Like the Night King is slowly walking toward the tree, and
I love when they show like the White Walkers coming in. They're like, they look like freaking mafia bosses. They're like,
like dong. Yeah. So they show up, and I think even at one point it shows going back to Dany, because she was on the floor before we were talking about her. So right before like all the whites were about to kill her, Jorah comes out of nowhere and saves her life. So he brings her back to like the fucking castle, and I was like, wow, what a boss. And so they have a scene at the top of the castle where they're fighting, and even Dany is able to pick up a freaking sword and like start fighting. And I was like, girl, this is the first time you've ever like picked up a goddamn sword.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And she's so bad at it. She's so shit at it because she's always behind a dragon. And I'm like, you could have at least spent one of your moments being a badass bitch and like learn how to do that. And I think even in the book, like, I think the one thing that they said is a major difference with Dany in the book and what she's like in the show is she has a little bit more combat skills in the book, where she's able to like actually do more than just train dragons.
I don't remember that.
And be like a badass. No, is that not the situation?
I don't remember. As far as
I feel like she was depicted in a different way, where she was a little bit more of a warrior.
I don't remember in
and
the
less
books
of just like
her being a warrior at all, but I could be wrong.
Okay. I could be wrong too, because obviously I didn't read the books.
Yeah, no,
but
I don't remember that.
I feel like there was a lot of different depictions of her being more of a badass.
I don't think it would have been that drastic.
I don't know.
I don't think it would have been that drastic where like she is experienced in combat. I think the point is like she doesn't have experience. But having said that, I feel like after all these years, I feel like she should have asked someone to train her a little bit.
Like one person. Yeah, like there could have at least been one cute scene where like she's fighting and training with Jon, you know what I mean?
Yeah, or like even Dario or Jorah even. Yeah. Like she had all these guys.
Like she had all these men around her who know how to like fight, and she didn't even learn herself. And yet she like wants to be like seen as like the queen.
Having said that, she did kill a couple of them while her and Jorah were fighting. And of course Jorah gets like injured pretty quickly because like there's so many like attacking them. And this
like he's continuing to protect her, meanwhile he's like fighting them again, like he's fighting the ones who are attacking him. So like he's like killing the ones who are attacking him, and then like he's turning around and like protecting her. And so in a moment I think one of them is about to hit her, and then he like cuts him, and then he gets like stabbed in the back or something, so he dies. And that was a pretty big moment too. So he's dying at the top of Winterfell.
I don't think he dies just yet. I think he gets stabbed, and then it cuts.
He gets injured,
and then it cuts back to like the whole Night King sequence, and then we kind of don't see that until after, I think, and then we see like the Night King and like his whole effing like squad roll up to the freaking Godswood tree. And we see like Theon like being a badass. He's like he's like throwing all these arrows. And the funniest,
he was so badass. So I will say that he like really did a good job. I was like, wow, he was like the only one left. So he's protecting Bran the entire episode. And just as a quick shout out to Bran being the most useless character of all time, like what was he doing the entire fucking episode? Like just quickly talking about him sitting and waiting at the Godswood. He wasn't doing anything. At one point in time, he talks to Theon. He's like, you're a good man. And he's like, you're cool or whatever. She's like, thanks for helping me out and like being here for me. And then he's like, I'm going to go now. And then I'm going to literally say that into every single time crowd of,
I want to exit a conversation. I'm going to be like, I'm going to go now. And be a raven. Goodbye. And like lift my eyelids and just like dip.
Just lift your eyelids.
That's how I'm gonna do it from now on.
He's like, hello, Bran. Like we were having a conversation. You're like gone already.
Look, I think Bran is important, of course, but he's not. He's not bringing anything back. Like yes, he's flying over. Yes, he's getting this information, but he's not telling Theon like, yo, get ready because like the Night King's coming and like da 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 da. Like he's not saying any of that. So it's like cool, you're getting this information, but like you're not really sharing with anyone. So like we're all fucked. Like we're all fucked right now.
Like I was like, what the fuck did he do this whole episode? He didn't come back with any intel. He was like in the Raven's eyeballs for the entire episode, and then when he finally comes back at the very end, like the Night King's right in front of him. And I'm like, wow, like that sucked. So Theon is protecting him the entire time. He did a really, really good job. All of his people died except for him. And at that moment, the Night King squad is like right there. So they all wait, and the Night King like comes down like the aisle. It's like a wedding. So he's like coming down the aisle, and then he sees Bran, and then he sees Theon, and then Bran and him have like the final conversation. He tells Theon that he's a good man, and he's like, "Here, you like, I'm glad that you're back home, and like you're fighting for us." And it was a really emotional moment because like obviously you know that Theon's gonna die. Like,
and at this was point, his moment at this point, like death. No one has died yet. Like, fine, Lyanna, like she died, but like whatever, I didn't cry about that. But this one was like the first one, and even when Beric died, I was like, okay, cool. But Theon, I was like, oh my god, like I started to tear up, and because you just know how it's gonna end. And then he did everything he possibly could, and there was nothing else really to do.
Right. And like it was a big moment because like you were saying, everyone else like dying was like a big thing outside of Jorah maybe.
But Jorah hadn't died just really yet. Like we haven't seen that moment, so I was still kind of like preparing myself for that as well.
Right. So when Theon dies, I was like, damn, like that is an OG character. Like he was from season 1, episode 1. Like I can't believe he's gone like officially. Like he's not coming back to life anymore. So basically what happens is like Bran's like, thanks, like bro, like go do your thing. And Theon's just like, yeah, I guess I gotta go try to kill this guy. So he like tries to run and spear the Night King, but of course it doesn't happen. And the Night King fucking stabs him like straight through his chest. And then there was a really cool shot because like Theon falls to the ground. And there was a really cool shot from like Theon's perspective looking up at the Night King. Yeah. And the Night King like was already looking at Bran, and you're like, oh my god, like he's already moving towards him, and like poor Theon can't do anything at this point. Like, he's dead. It was just it was shot like amazingly. Yeah. And then the Night King he's walking toward him. And this part takes like a minute and 45 seconds, okay? Yeah, like, it takes so freaking long to get there.
And then he gets there.
So he's like going
He gets to Bran. Yeah. And then they have like a conversation, but like telepathically, I think. Because like they're just staring at each other for a good, I want to say a good 60 seconds. They were just staring at each other.
Yeah. It felt like so fucking long. And that's the thing. We've never heard the Night King speak. Like he never says one word out loud. So we don't even know if he speaks English. Like if he even like speaks the tongue. And we're never going to understand whether or not he like had more than just the reason why Bran gave us, which is like he wants to just get rid of all humans. So he's right in front of Bran. He takes a sweet ass time. He's about to grab the knife from his back, and all you hear, like it's like dead ass silence. It's like pure silence. Our breaths are being held. I'm like, okay, Bran's dead. Like he's dead. It's fine. Whatever. And then all you see is this like gust of wind, like hit one of the
White Walkers.
like White Walker like kings or whatever, and he's like in the back corner. So like you see that gust of wind, the Night King turns around and fucking Arya just emerges out of the darkness and like lunges at him with a knife. And he grabs her throat, and I was like, holy fucking shit. It was the craziest moment I have ever seen ever. Like, the way they set that shit up was insane. Yeah. I was screaming. I was like, I can't believe this is happening. And at the same time, instantly, not only are you so excited to see this moment, but instantly you're fucking terrified that she's gonna die right now. Like, I was watching that, and I'm like, she's fucking dead. Like, she's actually gonna die right now. But at least she tried to like kill the Night King, you know?
Oh my God. I thought she was dead for sure. I'm like, that's it. Like, like goodbye to my favorite character. He just like, cause he looked like he and it sounded like he crushed her. Like it sounded like he crushed her throat. And then of course in that moment, and this whole thing was planned out so perfectly because he holds her, she drops the knife. And at first I thought that he like choked her so hard that she drops the knife, but she drops it on purpose, I think. Like, I think she does it. Right. She's like, boop, boop, and she puts it into her other hand, and like she just stabs him exactly where the children of the forest had like initially put the dagger into his stomach. Right. And then he's just gone.
It's all this poetic moment, where like he was like done, like he was created by like the Godswood tree, and now he's like undone by the same Godswood tree with like the Valyrian steel. So he shatters and he dies right in that moment. And she survives. She's alive. Everybody's alive. And at that exact moment, everybody that came back to life, everyone that he was controlling, literally shatters into like ice particles. Like they just all die. So everyone in the crypt dies. Everyone around like the whole castle dies.
The ice dragon dies.
The dragon. Yeah, so the ice dragon was about to burn Jon to death because he was going to be like a hero for the final time. And he was like, rah! And then I was like, he's going to fucking die too. So everything kind of plays into this like amazing crescendo. And then finally like she kills him and then it's over. Like the war
like
is
Arya basically
over.
Saved the world. So thanks. Cool.
Yeah. Thanks, girl. You're the best. I'm amazed by you, and you're my hero now for the rest of my
honestly.
life.
And so that happens, and then it's kind of by that point, it's kind of like morning almost. It's like probably like 5 a.m. And the Red Woman, and this was probably one of my favorite scenes. I think it was done so beautifully. Oh, sorry, we do see Jorah die. So like Dany does cry, and he's like in her arms, and like he fucking dies. It was so sad. And she's so like sad. Bawling.
And even Drogon comes down. Like he's like, Murr.
Yeah, I'm like, now like you come back. To console her. You legit left your mom before. Now you came back crying. Like, bitch ass. Like, go home.
Where have you been this whole time?
Everyone was so waste except for Arya and Melisandre. Yeah. Like everyone else was like, eh.
Basically.
So then we do see like it's kind of the sun is rising. It was such a beautiful shot. And you just see Melisandre walk out like into like outside of Winterfell, and like Davos is watching her the whole time. And because
he's like, I'm gonna go kill you now. He's like, I'm so angry.
Yeah. And then the music was so beautiful, and then she takes off her necklace, and you see her from like a wide shot, and like her hair turns back to like that old lady's hair, like all the white, and she just like falls in the snow and like basically dies,
collapses, and like it's gone.
That's how the episode ended, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah. So I have a few questions.
Yeah.
First question is, were you okay with Arya being the one to kill the Night King and how it all kind of played itself out?
I think if you really think about it, like in the minute details, I think you might be upset about it. I think you might be like, well, Jon was like, you know, his nemesis the whole time, and he, you know, worked up for this. But, you know, Game of Thrones is meant to like fucking shock you. It's meant to have twists and turns. And ultimately, you know, Jon made so many mistakes that night too. Like he was so far back from the actual drama of the events. Yeah. This guy was just like taunting a freaking ice dragon. Like, go do something. Like I know he couldn't
like go fight.
He couldn't get away from it, but like, why are you in this situation? And Arya was just fucking on point. Like she was just there, and it was her destiny.
She literally killed it.
It literally was her destiny to do this all. You know. Yeah.
I just thought it was amazing. Yeah, because the writers also said that they decided that it was going to be Arya 3 years ago. Like, they decided like so long ago that it was going to be her. And I was like, wow. And I think that it was just beautifully put together. Like, it was deciding on her being the character, because when you really think about it, you always have to question what was her purpose, what was her journey,
Totally.
what was the point of her journey, becoming this ninja and like doing all these things. And of course she like avenged her parents, like her mom's death, killing like like she had her revenge and all that stuff, and we're like, okay, now she's back home, what is she gonna do now? Of course she's gonna be a badass fighter in this war, but what else does she have to offer? And for them to give her this part of it, I was like, this is fucking epic. I'm so excited to have seen that and experienced that. Like I was gagged by it. Like it was amazing television to watch. So
and it was funny because like there's a bunch of interviews that you guys should read up on, but like even like the actress Macy Williams, she was like, I didn't even read the script because she's like, I thought like obviously it was gonna be like John that kills him or like Bran or something, and she's like, I show up and everyone's like, did you even read the script? She's like, no. And they're like, you should probably finish the script. And she was so gagged that it was her. She's like, why is it me? That's like amazing. Why wouldn't it be John? Like why wouldn't it be Bran? Like why me? And I think she was just really like shocked at first, but I think obviously like in the end, like it made sense and it works. And I think it works. I think it's totally, I think if you look at her whole journey, it was all there for us to really see. And what the Red Woman says to her all those years ago, like, fuck, like it was true.
It was perfectly put together. Yeah. Amazing. So well done. The next question that I have is, why did you think that Melisandre, like, while it was beautiful and while I understand on a symbolic level why Melisandre dies, like she doesn't need her power anymore, like, you know, winter is over, like she's not needed. Why did you think that she just had to be like, okay, I'm gonna pull my necklace off and like die?
I think, and I was reading about this too, cause I was like, girl, why are you going right now? Like you're fine. First of all, I think she knows that she ran her course in the sense that, like, if she stayed, Davos probably would have killed her. I think she realizes that, like, she fucked up so many times that she probably can't even live with herself. But I think beyond that, I think in the folklore of their religion, of, like, their Lord of Light, like, the Lord of Light was placed there to fight the shadow side of the world. And I think because they did fight it that night on the longest night and they beat the shadow side. So I felt like her mission was over. Like, she doesn't have to be here anymore because there's no more death. There's no more shadow, right? So I think that's just the ending of her journey, and she wants to put an end to it, I guess. Like, it was just so beautiful. It really was. Yeah.
It was so well done. Yeah, I agree. I guess it would have been nice to have her as an ally if in case this ever happens again. But yeah, I guess that's what I mean. I think her time was spent. Yeah,
and I think it feels more special that she ran her course.
Absolutely.
She came, she redeemed herself, she did so much, and then that was it. She's like, I've helped you guys win this war, and now like I'm gone. Like there's no reason for me to be here anymore. So, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So that's the episode. I think that the only other honorable mention in terms of deaths that I wanted to talk about was Ed from the Night's Watch dies.
Ed.
But everybody else we mentioned, Jorah dies, Lyanna, Theon.
Can I just ask you really quick, like, what did you think about Sam? Because Ed, like Ed kind of, and I'm
he
just
pissed me the fuck off. He really did.
Ed kind of dies because of Sam. Like
because
multiple times, this guy almost killed. Like Ed almost got killed because of Sam, and then he finally does get killed because of Sam. I was like, what the fuck?
Right.
Like Sam, like learn how to fight, dude.
Yeah. And not even just that. It's like he decides to fight, but then he like cowers out at the very like the worst moment possible. Like as soon as they start getting outnumbered at the front, like he's like, I'm leaving. He goes back inside the castle before anybody else does.
Know your place like Sansa and just stay in the crypts then. Like if you can't fight,
just stay in the crypts.
Like, just know yourself.
And he could have like in hindsight, he could have been more helpful probably down there than he was up top. You know what I mean? Like, what was he even doing? I mean, I guess he survived, so he like killed enough people. But I was thinking the same thing. At one point in time, I thought he was like literally gonna die because Jon has a slow motion walk through the courtyard and he sees like Sam on the floor, literally getting attacked by like 4 whites. And then he sees like a bunch of other people. He sees like Jaime and Brienne on the side, and he's like, everybody's gonna die. But I thought that Sam was going to die, but then they don't have like a moment with him. So I was like, okay, he's not going to die, obviously. So yeah, Sam definitely annoyed me this episode. I was like, this is the last time that you're ever going to fight in a war. Like, just get out of here. Never try that again.
Yeah.
Like, don't even do it. Because the problem is like, I'm all about like him, like getting his bravery on and like fighting. But he like flips back and forth so much that I was like, you're either going to be this brave ass motherfucker and kill a bunch of people, or you're going to like get scared and just stay with the women. Like don't go out there then. Like you're more of like a liability than anything else. So anyway, do you have any other questions, or should we move on to the social media questions?
Social media questions.
Okay, so we got a few because we asked our people on Instagram. So make sure you guys are checking that out, because we still have like 3 more episodes of this show, and we post right before the show's over, or right after the show's over, to get your questions. So make sure you guys are doing that. So we got one from @shortofnormal, where we got a couple. The first one is, why doesn't Tyrion have a ton of children all over the realm? That's a good question.
It's a really good question. I don't know. Like, they've never really explored that, and I don't know what that would really add to his story, you know?
Yeah, because he's not a king of any sort, so like maybe it doesn't really matter. Because maybe for all he knows, he does have bastard children. He just doesn't care. Like he like fucks them and then like leaves. So maybe that's the situation. It's just never explained. Yeah. The second question they ask is, why didn't I get a ghost scene?
Me too. I said the same thing. I said the same thing, and Jayla got mad at me. He's like, there's more important things than a dog. I'm like, no. I'm like, the Ghost is like this huge character in this show, and he came back last week and no one said one fucking word. And then again this week, he like fucking turns up for everyone and no one says anything to this dog. Like, I'm pissed. Okay,
I need to set up this sequence for everybody. We were like, me and NB are talking. We're just like trying to rehash like all the details of the episode. We're talking about how crazy the ARYA sequence was, like all these crazy, amazing moments. And then like somehow NB's able to sneak in, but like John didn't even talk to Ghost. I was like, what?
But like he could have said something. He could have been like, "Don't worry, I got you."
What is he gonna say? Like, go get it, boy. Like,
bro, the
I
dog
hope
is
you
like
don't
silent.
die right
like,
now.
The dog doesn't even get any love from John anymore. Like, John's all up on the fucking dragon now. He's like too good for Ghost. Like,
what is
fucked up?
What did you expect to see is gonna happen? But I understand what you're saying, and I understand what Astro and Normal is saying.
Not even to like talk to Ghost, even to be like, "Don't worry, like Ghost will be out there with you guys. Like, he's good," or something like that. Where like you mentioned him, and maybe it wouldn't happen in this episode because everything was so crazy. But last week it would have been nice to like hear someone say like, "True, we have Ghost on our side. Like, we're good." Nothing.
Maybe we'll get it. Maybe we'll get a moment next week. Because he does survive. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he does survive. Because we would have seen that death for sure if he didn't die. We have another couple from Faye AJ. One of them was, is the Night King a Targaryen?
Yeah, I thought the same.
Because he didn't burn.
But
I'm like, either way, it doesn't really matter at this point. But because he's dead. But I think that there isn't really I think he has Stark blood because he's from the north, right? I think that's the understanding. So I don't think that that's necessarily the truth. But whether or not he like was able to burn, I think it just has to do with the fact that he's like literally the Night King.
Yeah, I think so.
And then they also had a comment about John being an idiot. So they said John really fucked up. He was absolutely useless this episode.
Yeah.
Do you agree or disagree?
I 100% agree with that. I think John was absolutely fucking useless. He was useless. He was okay on the ground, but it was a little unrealistic for him to survive, I feel like. And then I think he was just useless like on the dragon too. Like it was just a shit show. Like I wanted so much more from both him and Dany, but yeah. Especially John.
You know what? Taking out both their big players out of the scene definitely made the show a little bit more interesting to watch. Because like if they came out of the sky and just burned everybody down, I'd been like, okay, you guys are. But I could have used a bit more. I think I could have used a bit more fire because it was just like they were gone. Like they were gone the whole time. And it was so dark.
Yeah, and it was so dark.
Just so dark. That is the episode, guys. Let us get into our recap roundups.
Best moment. I think my best moment has to be Melisandre rolling up out of the shadows and then basically getting everyone lit with like fire. It was such a cool moment to start off the fight, especially because like it amps you up. You're like, okay, like they have a chance. Like there's flames. Like you're just so excited. So it was very exciting.
It really like set it up amazing. Yeah. My best moment obviously has to go with Arya killing the king. Like that is probably hands down my at least top 3, if not top 2 moments of the entire series. Like it was just so perfectly unexpected the way that they set it up, and I totally forgot about her, and for her to be the one to kill him, I was shocked. I'm still kind of in shock that she literally ended the entire fucking war.
Fucking crazy.
And I'm so proud of her. Like, I want to cry. It was such an amazing moment to see.
WTF moment. My WTF moment is, I think, when you see the Dothraki like charging into the darkness with their flames, and then slowly like the flames are just gone. And I was like, holy fuck. Because you go from being so excited and so amped, and then you're like, oh my god, like a whole section of the army is just dead now. And it was a really, really like traumatizing and shocking moment.
I was like, oh god, they're really fucked now. Like,
basically.
It really, like, because you go from this moment where like the fucking flames, like their swords on fire, like, oh my god, right all the way down to like the worst possible moment. You're like, oh god, everybody's fucking dead in like 2 seconds. I was like, oh no. My WTF moment is gonna go to the people coming out of the crypts and literally like murdering everybody, because I also read an article last week to like saying that there might be something like that happening, but I was also told that in the book, and maybe you know this, maybe you don't, but I think in the book they say that the Stark graves are like set with iron bars in case something like this is to happen again.
What
like,
happens?
So they aren't able to get out.
Oh.
No, the iron bars keep them like in the crypt. Like they're not able to get out because the iron bars keep the dead like still like
that
awake.
Would be cool.
But I mean, clearly maybe they should do that for next time. But yeah, that didn't happen this time around. But yeah, it was kind of shocking, and like literally everybody was getting murdered so quickly. I was like, everyone's gonna fucking die. It's just crazy.
MVP. My MVP is going to go to the two girls. It's going to go to ARYA and Melisandre, because I think without the two of them, it wouldn't have ended the way it did. And
100%. And they really did have an amazing moment. Like, they never got to talk to each other or see each other until this moment. And even though it was short, it was like such an important scene to see. And
it was crazy because like in the beginning when ARYA gets into the castle, like they look at each other, like Melisandre looks at ARYA like really longingly, and I'm like, right, yeah. I'm like, oh god, like does that mean like she's gonna die? Like does she see her fate? Like what's happening? And then by the end of it, I'm like, oh my god, yeah, like totally she could probably see it all or whatever. So
my MVP is ARYA, of course, but also Lyanna, just because for obvious reasons. We talked about it, her being this like amazing hero and killing the giant. It was really, really cool to see too.
LVP.
My LVP is gonna be Dany and Jon together forever. I think they were so out of it. They made some wrong moves. They were just like doing things that weren't helping the cause at all. And I really did expect a lot from them, because like they are the leaders. They have the fucking dragons. Like even the dragon fight wasn't as cool as I thought it would be. I don't know. It was just kind of like a letdown from both of them. Yeah,
I agree. But my LVPs it was a toss up. One of them was Sam.
Yeah.
Because he was like a pussy basically the entire episode and got Ed killed. But also Bran, because this motherfucker sat in a chair and warged into ravens and didn't tell anybody anything. He was so fucking useless this episode. And I get that like maybe he already knew the truth, but he couldn't tell anybody like, don't worry, everything's gonna be fine. Like, did Theon even have to die? Like, did he even have to be protected? Like, it just, anyway, I really don't understand why they make Bran such a silent character, like even all the way to the end. Like he didn't even like spit in the Night King's face like go fuck yourself. Like he didn't do anything. Like he just like stares at him, and I'm like, wow, what a lame fucking character.
The best line. My best line is gonna go to this is the line that Melisandre tells ARYA. I think this is from season 3. And she says, I see a darkness in you, and in that darkness, eyes staring back at me. Brown eyes, blue eyes, green eyes sealed shut forever. We will meet again. And I'm just pulling that quote from season 3 because it all comes back in this episode. And it was right there all along for us. We just didn't really see it because we were like, does it even make sense? Whatever.
What does that even mean?
So,
yeah.
But yeah, I think it was such a beautiful moment to tie those two characters together.
I'm gonna use a little bit of a cop out because I don't remember exactly the one that I wanted to say, but I want to like use this one because I don't think I've ever done it. But Valramorcules, which is said by Melisandre in the beginning of the episode, it's probably one of the last times we're ever gonna hear that, because it's like, I think it's something that you say when you're about to go into big war, and
all men must die.
To know that, yeah, all men must die. To know that this is a moment that we've all been waiting for the entire series, and now that it's over and we still get 3 more episodes to see the whole series off, I'm just very excited. It got me really excited to see what happens next, because while this episode took so much energy out of me, I was like, oh, as soon as the episode ended, I was like, this is crazy, and I can't believe I watched this and I was able to experience it. But I'm excited for like not as much fighting and more just like finishing this story. Like, I want to see everything come to a close. I'm really interested to see what they do with King's Landing. But yeah,
and I think obviously the biggest quote, I think probably from both of us too, is the main quote that you hear Melisandre and Arya say is like, what do you say to the god of death, right, or the face of death? And you know, the response is not today. And that's just all that coming back full circle from like the first episodes with Arya fighting with her trainer in King's Landing, and like he tells her the same thing, and then he dies when the Kingsguard like kills him, basically. Like, it just all like brought it together, and like it's just such a empowering like line, and to hear her say it, I was like, oh my god, yes. And now that we know what it meant, you're like, yes.
It totally, everything just came together this episode, and it was just so amazing. All right, guys, that is the episode. I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. Let us know your thoughts. Make sure you guys are giving us all the discussion points. Make sure you guys are staying tuned for next episode. We're almost there. I'm kind of sad, but also very excited to see what happens at the end of the series. I'm going to take this moment to thank our patrons of the episode, our lit rewinders, Tina Ann, Sarge, Serena, and Kate, and our mommy rewinders, Becca, Sarah, Tamala, and Taya.
And if you would like to join our Patreon family, check us out at patreon.com/recap_rewind. If you join, you'll get access to all things Recap Rewind, exclusive content, and updates.
And also make sure you guys are checking us out on all of our socials: Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. And you can also find us on Google Podcasts, Spotify, and iTunes, and any of your favorite podcast stations. Like, subscribe, follow, review, and comment to stay engaged with us at Recap Rewind. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Bye.